I'd love to get your thoughts on the national Brock Purdy conversation and how it lands in the Bay Area, David.
Well, ever since he stepped in for Jimmy Garoppolo against Miami, that was week 13 of 2022, from his probably a second drive, he was doing stuff that even the top pick in the draft, you wouldn't expect him to do in his first NFL outing. He was getting hit by Jalen Phillips. I still remember this 3rd and long against Miami in his very first appearance. And Brock Purdy delivered over the middle blind, basically, because Jalen Phillips was drilling him into the ground. And he started beating these blitzes, and he started operating as a high-level veteran from the very start. So I think that 49ers fans, everybody here in the Bay Area, has felt like they're watching a veteran quarterback for a while now. The fact that Purdy went under the radar this offseason because of the elbow injury. And I think a lot of people on the outside counted him out. They felt, okay, not going to come back till midseason. Even if he comes back, there's going to be a lot of rust to knock off. Nobody really expected him to put up the numbers that he did. And obviously, when you look at all the efficiency metrics, it was number one across the board this year. It didn't catch the people watching the 49ers on a day-to-day basis by surprise, but I think that it caught the nation by surprise, right? And once the 49ers reached the playoffs, there's been this whole discourse that has assumed that somehow he was going to falter. And it's funny that the games played out that way at the start. He didn't look good at the start of the game against the Packers, didn't look good at the start of the game against the Lions, but he's finished so well in both of those games. He's done. You talk to a lot of coaches, they'll tell you the hardest thing to do as a quarterback is bounce back from a rough start within the same game, especially if it's a huge game, and put it together and finish at the end. We talk about the greats being able to do that. He's been able to do that for 2 straight weeks. So I kind of sense the national discourse shifting now, giving Purdy some credit for those wins. But that shift never had to happen in the Bay Area just because he came out firing from the very, very first drive against the Dolphins last year.
Well, and he has been terrific. There's on the whole, but the reason why I think it's difficult for the national media to let go of the narrative that perhaps he's not ready or perhaps he's not the guy that can get them over the hump, even though he has gotten them back to the Super Bowl, is because of the way that Jimmy Garoppolo took the team to the Super Bowl, and rumblings already started that proved to be founded that Kyle Shanahan wasn't thoroughly enamored with Garoppolo, and they went and drafted Lance and have the benefit of finding a true talent with the last pick in the draft. And then comes this quote in an ESPN story where Brock Purdy tells Nick Wagoner of ESPN that the team told him he'd be the starter coming back from surgery unless Tom Brady wanted to come out of retirement. What's that one all about, David?
Well, remember the context. At the time, the recovery timetable for Brock Purdy had been about 6 months coming off of the UCL. So the 49ers were considering all of their contingency plans in the offseason. The story around training camp was how astounded the 49ers were and how pleasantly surprised they were that Purdy's recovery went as quickly as it did. And he was ready to go by day one of training camp. So a lot of this Brady discussion back and forth, that all needs to be viewed within the context of Brock Purdy potentially not being ready for week one. That was what the 49ers mindset was. As far as Garoppolo goes, I've always been of the camp that when he was healthy, and that was an issue for Jimmy Garoppolo, the availability just wasn't what the 49ers needed it to be. But when he was healthy, this offense, efficiency-wise, was consistently in the top 10, I would say even the top 7. But Brock Purdy has guided this offense to new heights. There's a big difference between the number 1 offense in football and the number 4 to number 7 offense in football. And you've seen it with his mobility. He had those 52 rushing yards in the second half. That's something that Jimmy Garoppolo wasn't bringing this team. And Purdy has also been really, really accurate on the deep passes. Might have gotten a little bit lucky against the Lions with that one that bounced up into the air, and then Brandon Ayuk made the catch. But everything that Kyle Shanahan has wanted to do and open up with this offense, he's actually been able to do with Brock Purdy, and that includes off-schedule possibilities.
So just to finish up this thought, David Lombardi of The Athletic here on the Rich Eisen Show, that they did, in fact, kick the tires on Tom Brady, but as a, hey, got to make sure that door is closed while Purdy rehabs. That's what happened.
I think that's the right way to view it. I think also after the 2019 season, after they went to the Super Bowl, there were a lot of rumblings about Brady before he signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At that point, the 49ers decided to stick with Jimmy Garoppolo. So we have reports like this. We have the Aaron Rodgers report too, or that was 2021 before the 49ers drafted Trey Lance, that they had a phone call with Green Bay. I don't think the 49ers denied that either. I think that they're constantly scouring for a way to improve their team, right? And this is anything a good front office, good personnel department is going to do. But if you're looking at this Tom Brady, Brock Purdy situation, I think that we absolutely have to remember that Brock Purdy had torn the ligament in his elbow of his throwing arm, and his recovery was nothing. It was not a guarantee at the time that a lot of this discussion was happening.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.